Hi, I'm Joe Brodnicki of Success Navigation Associates, and I want to welcome you to this week's edition of Leadership Matters. Welcome to Leadership Matters for November 15th, 2018. Claiming Your Leadership, Part 1. We're continuing our journey into Margaret Wheatley's second of three aspects of leadership, Claiming Your Leadership. The title of Wheatley's book, Who Do We Choose to Be, presupposes a missing frame of leadership. Leadership starts with you. When you lead, what are your intentions, and why are they meaningful to you? Many leadership courses and books talk about how to lead. They focus on what and how, and only give passing reference to who you need to be. Here's a hint. When you lead, in the who of leading is much more than just ethical behavior, living your values, or creating a vision. The first thing we need to keep in mind is that leadership is not really a thing. You can't put it in a wheelbarrow. Everyone leads at one time or another, so saying that everyone is a leader is meaningless. We have to anchor leading into a time, a situation, and people. So leadership is a process. When do you lead? Who are you when you're leading? Why are you leading? What type of leading are you doing? What's the context of your leadership? What skills and resources do you need to lead in a specific context? The who, what, where, when. We'll be considering these things over the next few weeks. Claiming your leadership starts with a clear sense of intention and meaning. Intention is what's your purpose, goals, and objectives for leading. On an even higher level of thought, the meaning is what's the significance, what's the value of your purpose, goals, and objectives. And it starts with what's the value and significance to you. We'll briefly study Mohandas Gandhi, one of the legendary leaders during the 19th and 20th centuries. And remember that his public leadership started as a civil rights activist in South Africa around 1893. Now, Gandhi's intent in meaning as a leader started with his answer to the question, who would he choose to be? In his 2008 book, Gandhi and Churchill, Arthur Herman wrote that when Gandhi arrived in South Africa, he thought of himself as a Briton first and an Indian second. But when Gandhi encountered prejudice against him and his fellow citizens of India from the British people, he was moved to reconsider his experiences and reconsider who he was. Now, his experience included not being allowed to sit with European passengers in a stagecoach. When that happened, he was ordered to sit on the floor near the driver, and he was beaten when he refused. He was kicked into a gutter for daring to walk near a house, and he was thrown off a train because he bought and sat in the first class section and refused to leave when asked. After being thrown from that train, Gandhi sat alone at night in a train station, shivering in the cold and wondering if he should return home to India or do something about his rights, dignity, and who he was. His struggle to understand how some people can feel honor and superiority or pleasure in such inhumane practices as Gandhi experienced and his fellow Indian citizens experienced caused Gandhi to begin to question his people's standing in the British Empire and his own standing. Gandhi stayed in South Africa until 1914, and he led in many different acts of leadership aimed at dispelling prejudice and changing laws and changing culture. During his time in South Africa, Gandhi's intentions were to dispel prejudice and change the way that Indians were treated in South Africa. After all, they were still citizens of the empire. His intentions were expressed in many ways and at different times during his stay. Gandhi's persistence and sacrifice were driven by the pursuit of a highly meaningful, significant, and valuable purpose. He pursued the dignity, self-respect, and self-determination for all people of the British Empire, those in South Africa, regardless of where they were born or their ethnicity. And it started with the answer to a question: who would he choose to be? Would he stay and lead the fight, or would he go home? Would he identify himself with the ones who took joy in humiliating and degrading others? Would he identify himself with a larger cause and act in the here and now to confront the problems that he saw related to serving that larger cause? The first part of claiming your leadership is a clear idea of your leadership intentions, which are your purposes, goals, and objectives of leading, and even above that, the meaning to your leadership. What is its significance? What is its value to you? When we realize meaning and intent, we can begin to lead, but not until we find the answer to the question of, who do I choose to be? We'll look into claiming your leadership more in the coming weeks, but your first leadership challenge is clear. Who do you choose to be? Thanks for tuning in this week. Let's keep the conversation going. Drop me an email. Let me know what you think. It's at joe@successnavigation.com. That's joe@successnavigation.com. Until next week, remember that your leadership matters.